Today is March 15th. Welcome to Big Book Daily. My name is Rob. I am an alcoholic. It is a thrill, honor, and joy to be here with you today as we journey through the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 steps and 12 traditions. Today out of the Big Book, we are on Chapter 5, How It Works. We'll be reading page 62. Out of the 12 and 12, we're on Step 9. We'll read 84. And of course, we'll read the 24 hours a day and daily reflection. So with that, hope y'all are doing well this morning, my friends. We have been given another set of 24 hours. Happy, joyous, and free. When life exists, there's always the possibility to change something. And real quick, I heard this the other day from a sponsor that was talking to their sponsee. And he said, "Do you love your kids?" The sponsee said, "Yeah." And he said, "Why are you serving yourself?" And then he said, "Do you love your wife?" To which the sponsee said, "Yeah." And he said, "Then why are you killing her husband?" And I just thought that was so powerful. So anytime I make these selfish decisions, I need to ask myself, why am I killing my wife's husband? It's powerful stuff. And speaking of which, let's get to the good stuff. All right, my friends, if you recall from yesterday's reading, we have been hearing this example of this actor who wants to direct everything. The lighting, all the other actors, the music, the dance. I mean, it's exhausting, right? And things don't go off as well as we want. And therefore, we get resentful and angry and bitter. So we're going to continue on that thought on page 62, and this is all an illustration of step 3. So, page 62. Selfishness, self-centeredness. That, we think, is the root of our troubles. Driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, and self-pity, we step on the toes of our fellows and they retaliate. Sometimes they hurt us, seeming without provocation, but we invariably find that at some time in the past we made decisions based on self, which later placed us in a position to be hurt. So our troubles, we think, are basically of our own making. They arise out of ourselves, and the alcoholic is an extreme example of self-will run riot, though he usually doesn't think so. Above everything, we alcoholics must be rid of the selfishness. We must, or it kills us. God makes that possible. And there often seems no way of entirely getting rid of self without His aid. Many of us had moral and philosophical convictions galore, but we could not live up to them, even though we would have liked to. Neither could we reduce our self-centeredness much by wishing or trying on our own willpower. We had to have God's help. This is the how and the why of it. First of all, we had to quit playing God. It didn't work. Next, we decided that hereafter in this drama of life, God was going to be our director. He is the principal, and we are His agents. He is the Father, and we are His children. Most good ideas are simple, and this concept was the keystone of the new and triumphant arch through which we passed to freedom. Out of the 12 and 12, we're on Step 9. Make direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. And yesterday we talked about, with certain amends, we can make them pretty quickly. And with others, we might want to wait a little while and make sure that we are very well rooted in this program and making those indirect amends first by our actions before we make those direct amends. So it all depends on the situation. And if I could add anything to that, maybe talking to a sponsor or trusted friend to get that objective point of view of whether or not to make these direct amends or indirect, and when, and where. So we are on page 84 today. We'll read the second paragraph. Much the same approach will apply at the office or factory. We shall at once think of a few people who know all about our drinking and have been most affected by it. But even in these cases, we may need to use a little more discretion than we did with the family. We may not want to say anything for several weeks or longer. First, we will wish to be reasonably certain that we are on the AA beam. Then we are ready to go to these people, to tell them what AA is and what we are trying to do. Against this background, we can freely admit the damage that we have done and make our apologies. We can pay or promise to pay whatever obligations, financial or otherwise, we owe. The generous response of most people to such quiet sincerity will often astonish us. Even our severest and most justified critics will frequently meet us more than halfway on the first trial. "24 hours a day, March 15th. AA thought for the day. We alcoholics were on a merry-go-round, going round and round, and we couldn't get off. The merry-go-round is a kind of hell on earth. In AA, I got off that merry-go-round by learning to stay sober. I pray to my higher power every morning to help me keep sober. And I get the strength from that power to do what I could never do with my own strength. I do not doubt the existence of that power. We are not speaking into a vacuum when we pray. That power is there if we will use it. Am I off the merry-go-round of drinking for good? Meditation for the day. I must remember that in spiritual matters, I am only an instrument. It is not mine to decide how or when I am to act. God plans all spiritual matters. It is up to me to make myself fit to do God's work. All that hinders my spiritual activity must be eliminated. I can depend on God for all the strength that I need to overcome those faults that are blocks. I must keep myself fit so that God can use me as a channel for His Spirit. Prayer for the day. I pray that my selfishness may not hinder my progress in spiritual matters. I pray that I may be a good instrument for God to work with. Daily Reflection, March 15th. The God Idea. When we saw others solve their problems by a simple reliance upon a spirit of the universe, we had to stop doubting the power of God. Our ideas did not work, but the God idea did. Alcoholics Anonymous, page 52. Like a blind man gradually being restored to sight, I slowly groped my way to the third step. Having realized that only a power greater than myself could rescue me from the hopeless abyss that I was in, I knew that this was a power that I had to grasp, and that it would be my anchor in the midst of a sea of woes. Even though my faith at that time was minuscule, it was big enough to make me see that it was time for me to discard my reliance on my prideful ego and replace it with a steadying strength that could only come from a power far greater than myself. All right, my friends, that concludes today's reading, and boy, this is a hard one to choose one. So I'm going to cheat and choose a couple, and I'll try to make this as fast as I can. Famous last words, but I love out of the big book that they talk about selfishness, selfishness and self-centeredness that we think is the root of our troubles. Driven by 100 forms of fear. Was anybody else besides me fearful? Self-delusion. Telling lies to myself. Oh man, I've been there. Self-seeking. Self-pity. Oh man, this is nailing me to a T. We step on the toes of our fellows and they retaliate. We invariably find that at some point in the past we have made decisions based on self which later placed us in a position to be hurt. I've always heard if we're okay with who we are, if somebody doesn't like us, that's okay. That's on them. That's their business. However, if we're not okay with who we are, if we look at ourselves in the negative sense, right? Then anytime somebody makes a rude comment or disrespects us, it affects us. It hurts us, right? Because we're making an agreement with what they're saying. But I love this. So our troubles, we think, are basically of our own making. So what do? We rely on a higher power. And I know that freaks some people out. But at the very beginning, the higher power, like somebody said this to me once, hey, your higher power could be the meeting at first, if you wanted. Because here, if you look around the room, you see a bunch of miracles sitting in this room right here, right now, instead of dying from alcoholism. Literally dying from alcoholism, the disease. So start with that. And then, just like the Daily Reflection said, that could be a beginning. And then, by washing, rinsing, and repeat of the steps and suggestions and keep going back to the fellowships and always remaining teachable, maybe that dim light begins to expand over time. And maybe your conception of a higher power will change to something deeper than that. That's been my experience. Now, I've always said and I was a Christian before the rooms, but I even had to discard some old prejudices, I can't say that today, of my previous conception of my faith. But now I have a much deeper conception of my faith. I still am a Christian, but I have a much, much deeper understanding and relationship with my higher power, who I call Jesus. But everybody else is different. Everyone else comes from different backgrounds, as we've been talking about in the last few weeks. And that kind of leads me to, finally, the 12 and 12. I love, first we will wish to be reasonably certain that we are on the AA beam. Then we are ready to go to these people to tell them what AA is and what we are trying to do. And kind of implying like, hey, take a little bit of time with this. And I know it's in the big book somewhere, talking about the alcoholic being a roaring tornado, right? And a lot of times we're in the eye of the storm. We don't realize the damage we're doing until we're sober and we have to feel it. But my point is, clearing the wreckage. Think about that tornado, right? And it goes through a house. Finally, when we're sober, we start to pick up the wreckage, the debris all over the yard. But the thing is, it's one piece of wood at a time, one brick at a time. The nice thing is that every time we take that one piece of wood, one brick, one piece of debris at a time, the nice thing is we're still making progress. But it is going to take time to clean up the wreckage of our past. But the beautiful thing is that our higher power is with us all the way to give us the strength to do this and the endurance to do this. And eventually, the job will get done. But I know how I am. I sometimes I want to just slam on the gas pedal and, I want this change right now. Doesn't always work like that. Some things have changed quicker than others. But that selfishness and self-centeredness, that's in there. That's still in there. That's why I love reading these books, because it reminds me of what my problem is, but also what my solution is every single day. What a blessing it is to be alive and sober today. And if you are sober, my friend, I hope you know that you're a miracle. And those who love you are very proud of you. And I'm proud of you. I know the struggle. I get it. I've been there. And we are giving a great gift to those around us. Family members, people outside of AA, and of course people inside of AA. We can help the next suffering alcoholic in a very unique way. And if you are not sober today, my friend, here on March 15th, this beautiful Sunday, I hope you know that you are loved, you are of great worth and value, and you are worthy of recovery. I pray that today you make that first step toward change and you do not have to do it alone. We are in this together, and we've got your back. There are so many resources out there. The Everything AA app I use religiously. It's got the Big Book on there, the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions on there, hundreds, if not thousands of Zoom meetings. You can track your sobriety. There are so many podcasts out there. I love Sobercast. Every now and then you'll hear like an old one. I heard an Ebby Thatcher speaker meeting from, I think, the 60s not too long ago, which I never knew existed. And there are hundreds of others. I'm subscribed to a bunch of them. I'll list a few, like That's Not in the Book. I love that one. Sobercast, of course. I just subscribed to a bunch more. The Naked Mind, I think my friend Henry told me about that one a little while ago. And a few others. My point is, there are so many resources out there. Rehab centers, in-person meetings, Zoom meetings. The help is out there. But the big thing is, are you willing to reach out for it? That is not a weakness to reach out for help. It is a strength. Surrendering is not giving up and dying. It's giving in to life and making the declaration that you want to live. So how free do we want to be today? But with that, my friends, I don't speak on behalf of AA, NA, Al-Anon, any other sect. I am just a drunk in this lifeboat of recovery. Honored to be here. And please, 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 if you want to share your experience, strength, and hope, here is a platform to do it. I love hearing your sober stories. Reach out at bigbookdaily@gmail.com. I will keep your anonymity intact, and I will be honored to share your story on the podcast. Again, that's bigbookdaily@gmail.com. Thank you so much for being here. You're helping me more than I'm helping you. And with that, if we are given another set of 24 hours, I sincerely look forward to seeing you right back here tomorrow.